Welcome back to another edition of the B4evaKool Podcast. My name is Rex45. This evening we have Tim from Superbike Service 44 on the show. Welcome to the show, Tim. How you doing today?
Thanks. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Nice. Well, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about, how you got into riding. I see, I believe, is that a 848 behind you or a 749? Is that a 749?
749.
749.
Yeah, that's my bike.
Nice. So yeah, let's talk about how you got into riding, man. What was your entry into it? You start young, like some of these new kids, or some kids that have been fortunate too, or I started like 10 years ago, so I started to get gray hairs when I started.
Yeah, no, I was the same thing. I started racing when I was 30. I rode a motorcycle first when I was probably like 12 or something like that. A little Honda CB125 was in my family. And then I rode that a little bit, and then bought a bike when I was 20, rode that, and then just started doing track days, 2007, something like that. And then, track days for a few years, and I started racing in 2010.
Oh, wow, okay. And now, what was the thing that got you into riding? Was it your buddies, or, started following like Motor America? It might not have been Motor America back then, motorcycle racing.
I didn't know. Honestly, the funniest part is my wife actually took me to the track first to do a track day with my car. And then I had a friend who he wanted to do the Penguin School. And so since I had already been on the track, I was like, yeah, I'll do it with my bike. I did it with my 748.
Yeah.
And super fun in like 2007, I think. And then so I did a few track days, bought a little trailer and towed it behind my little two-door car. And then a friend of mine told me I should start racing. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'll get competitive. I want to win. I'll spend all my money. And no, he assured me that wouldn't happen. And it definitely happened. And then he stopped racing and I stayed.
Man,
I got into it.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I assume after that you give your wife a great birthday gift and Christmas gift, because I've been riding and I do IT as well. And, I got to talk to a lot of people, and, there are a lot of women that don't let their husbands ride and stuff like that and get a motorcycle and stuff. So, to have a partner that's encouraging you to go out there and ride I don't know what the right word is, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, she was definitely supportive of it back then. Like I said, she went to the track before I did with her car. Okay. So she introduced me to the track, not the other way around. And then, the whole time racing, she's been awesome. It was always kind of considered my therapy, like my couple weekends out of the house for the year. And then now actually with the business, she's now doing a lot of the background stuff of that.
Okay.
Doing when parts come in, she's taking care of all that side of the stuff.
Oh,
yeah, no, she is well beyond just being supportive of it. She's now an active participant.
Nice. And so what was like the Penguin School like for you when you went? And did you know right away that you wanted to race, or still were doing track days?
No, it was track. So I did a couple different. I think I rode a Fishtail. I rode with Penguin. I rode with BCM when that was still a thing. So I rode those different groups. And then I just kind of progressed up through the different levels, And then my buddy kind of asked about it, and I felt like I was getting too aggressive for track days. Like I wanted to do more. And it just kind of worked out. And so I did my rookie race with Penguin. I won my rookie race, and then crashed out with my next race. So I got to have the wins and the loses on the very first weekend, which was good.
Nice.
Obviously, everybody else, they just get hooked, right? And it's just, you're always trying to get that next couple tenths or the next position or whatever.
Right. And so did you find that like, even crashing out early and also the wins, did you find that you got up to pace quick, in retrospect, or, did it take you some time to get them tenths down?
Man, the first few seconds, I guess, I don't know. I probably maybe like 125s on my 748, like the first weekend. and I probably got down to like 21s the first year. And then the second year, I actually went slower. I went faster than my 740. I got the 749 and it was faster. So it actually kind of scared me. So I ended up being slower for the first few weekends.
Right.
Maybe like the 19s the second year, like nothing special for sure. It wasn't until maybe 2020 I kind of started messing around with like suspension stuff. And that's when I started dropping, more time and, got down. 2022 was my fastest season. I was doing 14s. So this year I was 15s.
Yeah. Now, what made you go from, I assume like your Ducati 100%. And what was it? What made you go from the 748 to the 49? I mean, was it the SVs killing us at the time, or what was it? What was the thing for you to say, all right, I'm gonna try the 749 now?
Opportunity, I guess. I like running Thunderbike, like I always have. When I started racing, Thunderbike there were like 20 something riders in it. It was a huge class, and so I liked that class. I didn't want to do the 600 class. I want to stick with the twins. I like the Ducatis. And a 749 had come up for sale, and I actually had to go to Canada to get it with a friend. Wow. It was 900 miles on it. Yeah, it was like a crazy road trip with a friend, dropping off a couple Desmo Sedicis, and it was just a super cool story. So then I got the 749. He was racing one, so I just thought it was cool, and so I picked it up to be in that same class, and I've been running that since 2011, I think. So now I have, it's on multiple different motors, like multiple different everything. It's fun. Just, I don't know. I should probably try something different, but
right.
These things to let them go.
Yeah, I haven't. I have a couple of Ducati street bikes. I haven't raced a Ducati. It's on my bucket list. The new V2s is looking pretty good for maybe a possibility. What was it like between the 748 and the 749 as far as ergonomics and stuff like that? I have the 1198S, and the ergonomics is pretty rad compared to what the newer bikes are. It's a lot on the wrist. Did you have to work out more and stuff or do anything? And what was that like?
The 748, you definitely sit deeper in. I think the tank's kind of real tall. Mm-hmm. The engine was the biggest difference between the two, I would say. Like the frames, the pickup points on the frames and the motors are all the same point, so that part doesn't change a whole lot. But definitely the engine, the power band is a lot different. Like the 749s, I shift them at 11 and a half. One of them has an ECU that'll go to 13, but it doesn't really help at all. Whereas a 748 was, maybe 10, something like that. Like it's just, to be unpolite about it, that it makes the 748 feel like a dump truck. Like it just is. It's not the same thing. Yeah. I love the bike. The bike's always worked. It's been a great motorcycle. Like it's an awesome track day bike. It's super fun because you can just wring its neck. But it just doesn't have the power. It doesn't have the same sound and stuff like that that the 749 does. Plus, the 749 came with offset triples, and so you don't have to do as much work to it.
Right.
But yeah, the 748, it's a great bike. I have it. It was in the living room for the longest time, and then it got turned into a mini yoga studio, more or less. My wife wanted it, and so since I have the whole shop, I thought, well, that seems kind of fair. I can give up a little tiny corner of the house,
right, to bring it to the shop.
Yeah.
And then what's the service like on it, and how much have you done? I mean, I see the Oleans in the rear. Is what model is it? Is it the S, the base, the R?
They're both the R models, so they came with the Öhlins.
Wow. Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, and then the cool stuff with the R models is the triple clamps, or the triples can flip from 36 mil offset to 30.
Yeah,
you don't have to change. Like the 748 still has a 36 mil offset, which doesn't work very well. The rear suspension on this thing has a linear link in the suspension, so the force it takes when it compresses, it's the same amount of force throughout the travel, where the 748 has a rising rate.
Okay.
So those are kind of cool things that they did on the 749Rs that the other bikes didn't get. So they're pretty good out of the box, like race bikes. The valving and everything in the shock is stock. It's a stock spring. Forks are Öhlins that I put the Öhlins Superbike kit in them. So they're just revalved Öhlins. That's it. The motors have been rebuilt, but nothing special. It's just stock rebuild, blueprinted stuff.
Right,
So
right.
I'll
And
talk.
and before we get back to like on track stuff, like what's the maintenance been like? We hear a lot about those, the 749s, 848s. When you're racing them, it seems like you're pulling the motors apart, just checking stuff and all that stuff. What's that been like?
Strikes and gutters. I've had a crank fail, and those things are like impossible to get a hold of. So I had a crank fail that then wiped out the cases, and that was just that was a big spiral. But like this one here, I just went through it. The valve adjust, I think I put this motor in 2 years ago, and the valves are fine. They didn't move at all. So that was cool. Timing belts I do every year. Spark plugs I do every year. I only changed the oil on it once this year, and it was fine when it came out. But I only do 10 hours of racing. I don't ride a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't practice. I just race on Sunday pretty much.
Oh, wow. Okay. And it's just because of, the Superbike Service 44 why you do that, or just more because of the way scheduling is and you just prefer the Thunder Bike races?
Yeah, pretty much it's what I prefer. And then it just works out well that like Friday I don't practice, but I'm up there so I can check on customers. If anyone wants to make tweaks, whatever. I kind of like having, if I service bikes throughout the month,
right.
I can dedicate the time to those guys for setup. So I'm looking for them on Friday and Saturday, and whatever they need, get them dialed in that last little bit. And then Sunday is my day. So if I'm short with anyone on a Sunday, if you come up and I'm turning one of my adjusters, you start talking to me, you might get a slightly rude response from me.
You gotta get a sign that says, out to lunch.
Man, I've thought about it so many times. I want to get a shirt that says it's my day to race, don't talk to me, or something like that.
Right.
It's not a do that.
Now I can imagine the balance of, servicing other guys and also trying to focus on your race. What's crazy is, you said you were doing your fastest times was 14s and you did 15s last year, and you're only racing on Sunday. I mean, like, what are you doing Monday through Friday normally to, maintain the skill set?
Whoa, nothing. I need a new wheelie chair too.
Right.
No, honestly, I think that particular year, and actually I have all my data sheets from every year. Like when I take the bikes apart, whether it's the customers or mine, I write down the before and after stuff. And so I was going through all my data to see what the hell happened, like what was different that year. And I found one number that was not really where I thought it was. So I have since put that back. Unfortunately, I found it after the last round this year.
Got you.
So hopefully it'll be that. Plus also ice riding.
Okay.
It's hilarious. So I think there might have been a lot of ice that year. And so there was one year, and I can't remember, I was riding I got sick of riding on the ice. I'd been gone out like almost every weekend. I'm like, I don't even want to go out anymore. It's too much.
Right. Wow.
I don't know if you've ever ridden on the ice, but it is absolutely hilarious. So
not yet. I hope to. Well, I'm down in Florida now, so I don't know if I will get the chance, but I was trying to when I was in Boston.
Yeah. If you come up, man, it's hilarious. It's so much fun. A friend of mine talked me into it who was fast, and so I go up, hang out with him, rip around. But yeah, I had never been used to a bike moving around and sliding and stuff like that. Like it was always if you slide, you crash.
Right.
But on the ice, it's way more forgiving. You're sideways all the time. It's always like skittish, and so I think having that, and then it's a lot of eye work too, like, looking where you want to go, right? Like they say that all the time. I think that stuff helps. So I went into that year, I had just ridden, a month before, probably the same 42-degree weather condition. And yeah, I got a 14 the very first weekend that year. Like my goal the whole year. Yeah, I was doing 15s the year before, and then the first round, boom, 14. It's like, oh, okay, that's different.
No, it is, and it was pretty cold. April is always cold, right? So.
Oh no, I was just kidding about the weather being the same on the ice and the first weekend of track.
Got you. Wow, that's pretty impressive, man. And then so now, what made you decide to start Superbike Services 44 and do the trackside stuff and do the suspension stuff and I've had Ian on the show, Bam Bam on the show, and these guys credit you to being quicker on their bike.
Yeah, those guys are fun to work with. How did I get started? I've been a mechanic my whole life. I just finished up teaching automotive classes for a college.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have been doing that for 19 years. And so it's what I do. I'm a mechanic. Like my shop I had built before I had any want at all to work on anybody else's stuff. It was just to hold my bikes. And I wanted it to look like a race shop. Like that was kind of the idea when I built it. And I never did anything intentional to make it look like a race shop. But now I have race bikes and race suspension and parts all over the place.
Right.
So this is what I always wanted, even though I didn't know it's what I want. So anyway, so I worked on my bikes and then I started kind of figuring some stuff out. And then I started working on my friend, Anthony DeCecca, who garaged next to me, and kind of helped him out. He had some issues and stuff. And then I just started helping more people at the track, like some of my friends. I get bored and I just want to do stuff. So like, let me check your bike. So I bounce on it, I try something, go see what you think. And, people liked it. And so I just started doing that more and more, started buying more tools to service more stuff. And it just kind of kept going. 2019, I think, was the first year that I had, I got a shipment of parts from somebody to do like a real customer type job, I guess, for suspension.
Yeah.
And then 2020 was awesome for me because everyone, people had bikes. I had a friend who was selling off some bikes in the collection. So I got a lot of that stuff and just started taking more and more bikes, and it worked out. I started doing all the LLC, making sure it was official. I actually got a new suit. So there was actually two kind of funny things that happened. I got an interview with Martin Hanlon. Mm-hmm. Is that his name? The guy that did the photos, I think. Anyway, so he did an interview with me and I was talking about it. And then I got a new leather suit and I wanted a logo on it. And I'm like, all right, well, I want it to be my logo, but I don't have one. So then I had to create a logo.
Right.
So I had to help me design this. Then I got the suit and then I did a website. And then I'm like, you know what? All right, it's kind of hard to claim that this isn't a real thing anymore.
I know, right?
So I probably get all the official stuff out of the way. So I got all the official paperwork. And that was like 2020, I think, is when we started doing all that stuff. And then 2021, I was waiting to go for the town to give me my variance for home occupation. Mm-hmm. And that's when I heard that CompuTrack was closing, or GMD or whatever, was closing. So that it was kind of a joke, kind of a, whatever, help my friends out, side job. Right. Not even really a side job. It was just kind of and then it turned pretty real pretty quick, and it's been awesome. It's it's good enough that I could quit my regular job and just do this now. Right.
Now, I don't know if you can pick a choice. It's like having maybe twins. What do you like more, the automotive side of things or the motorcycle side of
motorcycle all day long? Yeah. There's no rust. There's no salt dripping down the back of my neck. And I didn't even have to work in automotive. I hadn't actually been a real mechanic since before I went in the Army.
Okay.
So pre 2001, I hadn't actually been I did side jobs and stuff like that, but my job wasn't to fix cars. My job was to teach people to fix cars, and I was still getting salt dripped down. You're looking up and you get salt in the whatever.
Right.
Rust. I had to work on my box truck yesterday, and good grief, I'd way rather work on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then with the suspension, it's all so nice. K-Tech, Olin's, Penske, that stuff. It's all such nice, nicely made. Mm-hmm. It's I was talking to somebody else, and they were kind of geez, it's almost like watchmaking.
I was gonna say, yeah.
it's because it's all super detailed. Everything has to be perfect to work right. And then with the racing is a result, right? So if I put in all this effort, somebody's going to go faster, hopefully, right? Mm-hmm. So then as a result of my work, and, Ian and Bam Bam, I remember Ian, I think it was just I walked through and he was having a conversation with somebody else in the bathroom, and there was an issue he was having on the bike, and I walked by and I didn't think much of it, and I hit him up again later. I'm like, hey, I might be able to fix that issue you're having. And I was able to.
Nice.
And so to me, that's a lot of fun. I like the problem solving part of it. There's the service work and stuff and doing fork seals, but it's the actual fixing something, like making it better, tuning it, getting somebody more comfortable on the bike so they can go faster, or, beat the person next to them, whatever. Like, that's what I get a kick out of.
Right. And it's not, and it's, and you correct me if I'm wrong. It's like, in the automotive side, it's not like it's a race environment. And so we're on the racing side of things, you have to understand, not necessarily understand, but you have to give more input with tire situation, probably even body position situation to help them deal with the suspension. It's not just kind of like, hey, we change your springs, we load your car, you got sway bars on, whatever. You can go 2 corners a lot faster now. Have fun, Yeah. So you also, I passing that knowledge on as well, so to especially inexperienced riders. And those are probably the most ones that have the most problems because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, and you don't know what you're riding on, and something with cars, it's for the most part, nobody wants to go to the mechanic to get their car worked on, right? Like, I don't want to I had to get my car done for warranty stuff. I dreaded dropping it off. I dreaded picking it up. Like, I just didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah. Where this, depending on what's going on, either the customer's getting refreshed, generally everyone's happy. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about motorcycles.
Right.
So even if you're just getting an annual service, it's still fun. Like, okay, you improved, maybe I can make a change. Or if it's a new rider that just got into it and, I can make changes on their bike so that now they're more comfortable, it's a lot of fun. Like, I like that. And yeah, the new riders, they don't know what they don't know. And they might think, and most riders do this, is we take a lot of personal responsibility. Mm-hmm. Just to ride a motorcycle, it's personal responsibility for our safety.
Right.
But then what happens is we also tend to assume that if I can't keep up with somebody else, it's me, which it could be. It could also be the bike, So, and I found with my own bike, messing around with stuff, like if I make a 2 millimeter setting change in the back, I cannot do a certain lap time. Like, I dropped back 2 seconds when I made that change. Right. The next race, I pulled back and I was back to my normal lap time. So there's definitely things to change. And riders sometimes will not realize that, and then they have me set it up, and they go, "Oh my God, it's so much better. It's so much easier to ride." Yeah, right. Great, cool. So that side was fun.
Yeah, I'll bounce around a little bit, but do you recommend new riders to play with their suspension to know when the settings, like you just mentioned a little bit ago, if it's 2 mil off in one direction, you can't get your lap times. As a new rider, should you be, playing with a little bit of your suspension, how much of your suspension, just to kind of know where you don't want it to be and what the bike does?
Yeah, the first thing you got to check is sag. Yeah. Make sure the bike settles properly under you, and that'll tell you if they're right springs. So that's a huge big step that, it's just a tape measure, so most people could set their bike up like that on their own, and that could make a big difference. After that, playing with the damping, a lot of people are afraid to do it, but yeah, if somebody wants to take a screwdriver and, take good notes, be gentle, everything in there is super precise, so you're not cranking on anything. Right. But if you're nice and gentle and you make those changes, yeah, definitely do it. I like it. I don't like it. That's all there is. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you don't like it, then go in the other direction.
Yeah. And, for sure. But I find, a lot of us are fearful. I was fearful. I've heard people say it in the past, and I think like last year, I probably started trying, and playing with, compression and rebound and stuff like that. But like, because as you say, we're making a choice to come out here and doing all these things. So it's just like, why do I want to do something that could possibly make it horrible to ride? I mean, that's what we're thinking in our minds, instead of thinking like, okay, well, you don't have to go, 100%. You're just trying to just get a better feel or understanding. And it took me a little bit to get to that. So I can see how riders, that fear is to change stuff. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff I didn't touch on my bike in the beginning. Just out of like, okay, I want somebody who knows what they're doing to touch my bike, so that way, I feel more safe. Right?
It depends. I mean, certainly rebuilding stuff, but if you're messing on stuff on the outside, one person that comes to mind, I remember I set his bike up for him, and then it rained, and so he put it to rain settings, and then it dried up, and he tried to put it back, and he couldn't ride. He was so frustrated. He came over. He was like, "Can you please set my bike back to how it was?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." I put it back, and he went out and had a good weekend. So you can get yourself lost if you don't take good notes. So that, I'd say that'd be the biggest thing. If you want to play with your own stuff, do it, and take good notes. And I actually have sheets that I have for like trackside adjustment. Mm-hmm. So I have like the base settings, and then depending on what change we want to make, you can write down that change and have a note like, okay, did my personal best lap time with this setting, made a change and got another personal best, great. Or made the change and went slower. Okay, we'll go back to that other setting, and just kind of work methodically.
Right.
If you have that mindset. Then the other side of it, naturally I'm going to say this, right? It's what I'm doing for business now. But if somebody, you have to get your suspension serviced anyways, right? So if I service it, I want to dial that in. To me, it's the entertainment value. I like it, but I'm collecting data.
Right.
So when I get the data, when I set up somebody else's bike, so if somebody else same size and weight, I can use those settings, or at least multiple other riders, and help to get the person set up quicker. And then the rider doesn't have to think about it. They just show up, they ride, and then I take care of it. That's kind of how I've been approaching it. Because most people didn't have, you could go get your suspension serviced, you could get it installed, but as far as tuning it, you're on your own. And that's kind of where I felt that I would fit in really well, is being able to tune it for people. But yeah, once you get, and Ian's a great example of this too. Like, so I got Ian to a certain point, and then he'll have an idea of what he wants to try, and so he'll hit me up and be like, "Hey, I was doing this, I want to try that." And I go, "Yeah, I think you're on the right track. Go for it." And he'll try it, and he'll come back and say, "Yes, it worked," or "No, it didn't work." So he's definitely not afraid. So I got him to a certain point, but I mean, it's his credit getting himself down that last little bit, because he's not afraid to make small changes. And I try to educate people too when I'm doing it. I talk them through it. Show that, hey, this isn't, don't be afraid of it. You can make an adjustment. I don't have to be the one to come over and go click, click for you. If it does this, do that.
Right. Yeah.
And then, for me, even the weather change, so kind of, April's cold, whatever, the month's hot, maybe the suspension gets a little more loose because it's hot, make a click or two change. It might bring it back to where you're comfortable. You only know if you're going to try.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the hardest part, is the trying. Because even for me, I'd struggled for, I think, a year and a half. And I was believing it was me the whole time. And one day, on a ride back from the track, I was just like, well, maybe it's not me. Maybe let me get the bike checked out just to, have some, I'm in IT. I know sometimes it's you, sometimes it's the equipment. So I can't always, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. And sure enough, my geometry was off, and I was able to get a couple of seconds back closer to where my PB was, and so it's and as new riders, it's like it's hard to know when it's you versus machine versus so I guess the more experience you get, more seat time you get, and playing with stuff. You start to understand it now. I mean, I guess I'm in year like 13, 14, and I've been full time, 7 or more rounds a year since 2015, essentially, outside of injuries. And so like now I feel pretty comfortable with that and stuff like that. So, how has it been balancing, racing? I got to still motorcycling is still a passion. And then also, the business side of things, which not always have the passion.
I mean, I enjoy the business side of it. Like I get a kick out of, I use QuickBooks, so it keeps all my inventory.
Mm-hmm.
I got training from Olin's last year, K-Tech last year. I went down to Adriani training this year. So I like the training side of it. I like the learning more, interacting with other people that are doing this at a high level. That's pretty cool. Scheduling, talking to people, having customers coming in and out. Like I like all that side of it. So yeah, it's still definitely my passion. Like I get excited for people to try out their new bikes. I got one bike, and it's it's stock suspension, but it had never been touched.
Mm-hmm.
So he was riding big group at a track day, and so he just wanted it looked at, and it needed a lot of work. Stem bearings, rear link bearings. He had like 15 millimeters of stiction in the forks. Like it must have been terrible to ride, but he was still out there having a good time. And so now I'm excited to hear how he likes that. It's stock. He didn't spend a whole bunch of money. He was just trying to freshen it back up. So whether it's that or whether it's putting full kitted out Olin's or K-Tech or something in it, that side's fun too because I like the parts. But yeah, it's definitely still a passion. Like I want to ride my bike now. I found the change and I'm like, son of a, oh God, now I want to go try it and see if this thing worked,
Right.
I spent the last few years messing with every single setting I could on the bike just to see if I could go faster or learn something. I like having the conversation with customers. And especially like middleweight and heavyweight bikes, I can have that conversation more because that's what I ride.
Right.
So it's all kind of a learning thing. And then I learn with the customer, some people like this, some people like that. And then I can apply that to my own stuff and maybe I make a change. It's just all entertaining to me. Like I like all of it. So it's definitely still a passion. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, listen, man, I hope it stays that way because, sometimes it, for me in the past, it like the sales part of it, I should say, like dealing with, sales and growing and stuff like that. But I find in the motorcycle community, if you're really good at the things you do, the motorcycle guys and girls are pretty loyal and keep you busy. I think the problem is there may not be enough people who are really good, mechanics and suspension people and all that stuff. I think that's because I go to Boston to get my bike service and I'm in Florida now, It's like,
yeah. I mean, there's other people that have a niche also, right? That people travel to have them do work.
Yeah.
And yeah, the customers are great and they're always, it's motorcycles, right? So we're all having fun. Like none of us have to be doing this. This is what we choose to do for fun. So it's, people are showing up with that attitude more. I find it is interesting the difference between street riders and track riders and racers. The street riders tend to treat it more like it's a car and they don't really want to do the service.
Yeah.
It's a lot different than a racer who just bought a new bike that wants it, wants all the good stuff put on it. And is super excited for it, and they're two very different customers. And I enjoy the track race community. That's what I really like.
Right. How difficult is it to convert these street riders to track people? they some of them go kicking and screaming.
Yeah, I mean it's all their friends, right? I mean you got to have friends that are doing it. And then as soon as you get one person hooked, you try to hook everybody else, right? Like it's whatever it is, whether it's track day riders, you want to go with your friend. You want to go racing, you're going with your friend, you're like you and your buddy at the track. Like, if you're the higher level group, you're bumping each other like, let's go race. I want to go race. Come with me. Right. And then you go and it's just that cycle all over again. So I don't push people to the race stuff. I do support it. Like if customers, come in, if there's a race weekend coming up, I try to let them know. On my website, I have the schedule for like, the track days and the race weekend. So if anyone wanted to look, they could see what's going on. But yeah.
Nice. And now are your services at the racetrack and also track days as well? Or, obviously you open Monday through Friday as well, but yeah, as far as on track stuff or at track stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Tuesday through Saturday are my posted hours. whether that actually works out that way or not is a different story. But at the track, what I limit it to is just doing like bouncing on the bike, just to try to make sure the damping is somewhere close. Because riders will come in and if there's no damping in the forks and if the front end's like doing this all over the place, like, it's not very, very confidence inspiring,
Right.
So I think I've been charging like $20 to just adjust clickers at the track, and that actually has a huge result for people that have never had anything adjusted, so they can go out and have more fun. So I actually just had a customer, he had the bike, and I did some small adjustment to it, and after he picked it up from getting full K-Tech installed on it, he said it goes basically the difference you made by making that small adjustment, and it made the bike so much better. I then wondered how much better it would be with all suspension in it. And so that's why he ended up going all the suspension, is because I made such a difference with just an adjustment.
Yeah. Huh.
I can't wait to hear what he thinks of the K-Tech, because I know how much better it is than the stock suspension on that bike. But yeah, the Friday, Saturday track day stuff on a race weekend, for track days, I go to Cyclesmith, the course, and Fishtail, and then Fridays are Penguin days at the track. But I'm limiting that stuff, and especially on the race weekends, I want to try to limit it to just bikes that I've serviced.
Okay.
Because I know what the springs are, I know what the oil levels are, I know everything about the bike, I know the chassis settings. So when the rider comes in, hopefully I'm just making a click or two.
Right.
And if they have a specific issue, I have all their data. I can open up my book, I can look and see exactly what's going on and make a really isolated change to help them improve.
Okay.
Somebody just shows up and, hey, can you set my sag and do all this other stuff? It's a lot of work. It's, I don't know what the bike is. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what condition anything's in. I have done it, but it's going to vary on, how many of my riders there are that need work. I don't want one of my rider waiting because I'm setting, I'm doing something on somebody that's showed up with leaking fork seals. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'm not doing fork seals at the track. I'm not servicing at the track. I'll do spring changes, and then adjustments, but I don't do any work at the track. I want to race.
Right. I was going to say, yeah.
It's too much to try to do all that stuff. Like, I think I did a set of forks for someone at the track, and man, the job, it doesn't come out the way I want. Like, I'm racing out of an old U-Haul truck, like half of it's a camper, half of it's my bike stuff. And it's not set up to service.
Right. Not all your tools and all that.
Yeah. When you're used to working in like the perfect environment, which is, I've created the environment as best I can, that you can't do the same quality at the track. And so then it's, I don't know, it's not something I want to get into. Like, maybe one day if I stop racing and I have some huge trailer and I want to do that, but right now it's been working out really good and everyone's been happy with it. And I can service their bike. I get it set up. I have them sit on it. I set the sag with them. They show up at the track and they just ride. They don't have to worry about it either. They know they can go out for the first session and they're fine.
Right.
Get the thing, bring it back, and I'll dial it in, and they're not messing around all weekend either.
Nice. Now let me ask. How come you didn't go RS660 route? And does the new Panigale look a little tempting for you?
Oh man, probably not a Panigale. There's so much packed into those things. If I were to get another bike, I think it probably would be an RS660.
Okay.
Spend enough time either in front of or behind one of those things the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I know it's a great bike. I know it's a great chassis. K-Tech is my favorite package to go into those things. That's nice suspension to work on. The bikes are, an R660 would be my next bike. A Panigale, kind of too big, doesn't fit under bike.
Well, the new one, the 2025 V2 120 horsepower one that they dropped the CC. I think it's like 870 or something like that now for 2025.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know about it.
Oh yeah, you got yeah. So now you don't have to pay all that money to go detune the 155 horsepower one anymore. It's now 120. I think you get like 7 more horsepower with an exhaust or something like that. And so it looks similar to the Super Sport actually. Like if you so yeah, it or closer to the I would even say the Triumph, their 660, not even the RS660. Yeah, take a look at it when you get a chance. But at least it's, and it's not Desmo. It's not a Desmo either valves either. So I think it's a variable valve time in. So I think they're gonna get around a lot of stuff with that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know about it.
So yeah,
run over to see.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, and I mean, I think it's still price wise. It may be like there's an S model. So I think it's like 15 and change maybe for the S model. So, but yeah, it's 120 horsepower out the box. So it's a lot more than the RS660 or the R9. I think is 117 or something like that. So
yeah, I'd be curious what the weights are. I know that the R660, moving those things around the shop, they're short, they're light.
Yeah, it's like 37 kilos lighter.
I don't know what a kilo is.
I gotta have to look it up.
Freedom units.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely. I think it might be like 30 pounds lighter or something like that. I gotta see now. So but it's still. I think it's still middleweight. I mean, you could probably get away with a Thunder bike. I don't know what the rules are as far as how much if the CC is low enough to qualify in the Thunder bike, maybe the unlimited class. But I think it's meant to run in the middleweight.
Nice.
So.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm attached to these old things. I got 3 of them.
Okay. Wow.
Right. One of them I bought. Well, this one I bought. The thing was a wreck. Like fork seals were leaking out of it. Like it was. I bought it from a guy who actually had passed away. His name's Ernie. He had passed away, and then it was sitting around, so his family was selling it. So I got it. It didn't run. So that one was fairly cheap. I bought it for the wheels. And then the third one that I got was during COVID, or just before, and it supposedly has no fourth gear. And so if you send that thing to the shop to have the engine, you got to split the cases. So it's like $5,000 or $10,000. By the time you do that and then build the whole motor up, if you had somebody do it, so it's not really worth doing it if you don't want the bike. So I got that one cheap too. So I got 2 of them for pretty cheap. And then I just took them all apart, put them all back together, and yeah.
And now do you service the engines as well on those for your bikes, or?
For mine I do. I had Seacoast do the cranks for me, like shim the cranks for me, and then I built the transmissions up in them, and then built the top ends and all that stuff. I'll do that on mine. I don't do customer bike stuff like that. Like it's just way too much. Like I've been busy with suspension work, and getting all the tools for that. You start doing engine stuff, and then it's just too much. Like there's other people that specialize in that. Take it to the person that specializes in it. They'll be able to do it cheaper, quicker. Probably more reliable. They got the tools. It just makes sense to start splitting stuff that way.
Yeah. No. I go ahead.
Yeah, Seacoast has been super helpful with that stuff. And then Kyle Thompson, when I first got the bike, he was the one that had the 749R first. He's been super helpful with questions on it. So I got enough support with him, and now I've been running them for that's 2011, 14 years. Yeah, so I know him pretty well.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, I've always wanted to race one on the track. We'll see. I think I thought about the 848s. I did look at some 749Rs, but they're hard to find. They from places I've looked between Craigslist or Cycle Traders or whatever. They're hard to find. And then, also just the maintenance on them because they're older. Things are harder to get because they're older. And so that's kind of why I've leaned away from it. I was looking at the RS660, but like I said, like that new V2, that might be something just to get a feel. Because, street riding on my 1198S or even the Multistrada, I feel the most comfortable on those bikes. There's something about just the handling of those bikes. Like if I think the bike just does it.
Yeah. God, I rode an 1198 on the street once. Those things just want to wheelie all the time. Yeah. In second gear, you roll in, it just lifts up. It's like, oh my God, I can't ride this. This is crazy. Like, I don't know. I rode what was it? It might have been an 11.9, or maybe it's a Panigale. I don't know, the dashboard went up and over the digital dash.
It might have been maybe the 1199 or the 1299.
Yeah, it was
a twin.
It was so fast. Like I rode around Loudon and it was just a track day and I got in it a little bit, but as soon as it started to crest over, it was so fast. It spooked me. Like I couldn't hold the throttle open on the thing. It was just so fast.
Yeah, there's a certain speed that comes to life. And it's a whole different animal. Like when it's going slow, all of a sudden you crack it open. I don't want to say it's like Biker Boys where it's just a blur, but it does feel like it's a different animal.
Yeah, that's a lot of power. Right racetrack would be nice, but Loudon, I don't know. There's a saying that I like. Until you start breaking throttle cables, you don't need a bigger motor.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Yeah, not at Loudon. That'd be. I might start doing track days on it. That's something I probably might do next year on it, just to enjoy. Because now I don't ride it on. I ride my multi-strada more on the street than I do the 1198S, and so it's kind of like, okay, well, do some track days. I'm hoping to do Coda and Laguna Seca and stuff like that. So
nice.
So we'll see. But I know there's some stuff I have to do to the suspension. Just to get, because it's a S model, but it's still stock suspension, and I'm very light, so I know there's some things I need to do to just make it work better based on my weight.
The S's are Olin's, right?
Yeah.
I could look up all the stuff, but there's not a lot you'd have to do to them. Yeah. What tracks are local to you? To you now?
Homestead is probably the closest. Jennings is also close. Roblin's like 7 hours away. Daytona is close. This year I've been to Barbara, Road Atlanta, NOLA, Talladega, Jennings.
Wow. How was Barbara?
Oh,
that's one that's the stuff I want to do.
Yeah. If you could do it, when you can do it. It's such a beautiful place. And the track is so fun. To me, it's similar to Pitt with the elevation changes and the blind turns and stuff. I don't know, because I did Pitt the last year, that I felt like I handled Barbara a lot better than I did with Pitt. so I felt pretty more comfortable. And just being there one day, I did a track day there. But no, it's a really nice track, and I didn't get a chance to check out the museum, but just you would love it on that 749. It's
What are you using for a track bike now?
I have my R6, and then I have two KTM RC390. I have a 2015 Cup bike, and then I have a 2022 that I built up. So yeah. So,
nice. Yeah, those are popular. I've done a number of those recently.
Okay.
390.
Yeah, no, they're pretty fun. And I started on the SV, and then I went to a R6 in 16. And so that was a big difference after starting. Like my first bike was 848 I got from Seco. So I was riding twins in 2012, 13 to 15. And then I went to a inline 4, and it took me like a year just to get used to revving the bike like that.
Yeah.
And then I'd gotten into an accident in 2018. And it took me a while for my hand to heal. Then I kept riding, so I was riding bad. So I ended up in 2019. I bought the 2015 KTM just to work on body position and carry more corner speeds and stuff like that. I think at Loudon, I think I was just on autopilot, just kind of always braking in the same place on the R6. Not, and even R6 that I had rotors that were vibrating that I didn't realize until afterwards. That was caused because I wouldn't tip in until the vibration stopped. So then I would be. But the rotors are just old, and I changed them. And so that was fine. But yeah, so I switched to for 2023 and 24. I raced the RC390s, and I'm doing track days with the R6. But next year, I'm going to bring the R6 up north and do some rounds at Loudon on the R6. And I'm going to try to at least do like 3 rounds up there next year.
Nice. Well, let me help you with your suspension.
I will.
Bring it on. We'll get you
yeah.
set up. See if we can make any improvements.
Okay. I'm actually. We can talk off air. So let's tell people how people can reach out to you and find you and all that fun stuff, and we'll wrap up. But then
Sure.
Yeah.
Best way is the website, Superbike Services 44. You can go on there, fill out a contact sheet. It's all like drop down menu type stuff. And then generally what I'll do up a quote, of whatever the customer wants. And then I send the quote over, and that's pretty much it.
Nice.
That's the easiest way to do it. Yeah. And then after that, it's the phone calls, text, like don't do social, don't do any of that stuff. Like it's too hard. The website, all the information in one spot, super easy.
One-stop shopping. Yeah. I love it. Hey, I want to thank you for coming on this evening, man. Tim from Superbike 44 Services 44.
Yeah, Superbike Services 44. Yeah,
44. I want to thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.